Calling this meeting to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli. Here. DePena.
Here.
Graziano. Here. Councilmember Nattari will not be attending this evening. Councilmember Robel.
Here.
Councilwoman Schumer Burke will not be attending this evening, and Mayor Melvin.
Here. Sunshine notice?
Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was published in the July 6th edition of the Star Ledger and in the July 9th edition of Belleville Times. The notice that changed the time and location of this meeting was published in the Thursday, October 8th, 2020 editions of the Star Ledger and Belleville Times. A copy of these notices has been posted on the Belleville Town Hall bulletin board, and a copy is on file in the municipal clerk's office.
Pledge allegiance. To my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, Next item on our agenda is a presentation. Do we have Mr. Matteo here? I do see him. Why don't you come up, Matteo? You come up with your family if you want. Just going to have you guys stand here to my left. If we were in the council chambers, I would come down there and read it, and we would keep some social distance. I'm going to read it from here, though, if that's okay. So in June, was it June? So in June, I received an email. And I love to receive emails from either young people or their families making certain requests. And Matteo had a specific request for the township that we name June in honor of Tourette syndrome. And we researched it. The township passed a proclamation, and I had always promised Matteo that I would present it to him. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we were not able to do that in June. This is our first live meeting. We're back, and as promised, I want to make sure you were here today to receive the proclamation that was unanimously passed by the Township Council because of you in June. So without further ado, I'm going to read the proclamation. This was a resolution, like I said, that was passed in June, and all this was possible because Matteo took the initiative to raise awareness for this cause and make a request of his municipal council, and we're here today because of that. So I'm going to read it for you, okay? Whereas Tourette syndrome is an often misunderstood inherited neurological disorder that is characterized by involuntarily physical and vocal tics. Nearly 90% of this time is accompanied by mental health disorders such as ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and anxiety. Whereas Tourette syndrome and tic disorders affect 1 in 100 children throughout every ethnic and racial group, with the onset typically occurring at 6 or 7 years of age, though about half of these children go undiagnosed. And whereas, though some of these cases are aided by medication and therapy, there is no standard treatment or known cure for the disorder. And while tics may fade in adulthood, that is not always the case. And whereas 83% of children with Tourette syndrome felt it negatively impacts their school experience and education, and 3% have actually felt discriminated against. And whereas there is an urgent need for professional education in both the medical and educational fields to assist children, adults, and families living with Tourette syndrome, and general awareness to broaden the public's knowledge of Tourette syndrome and decrease the stigma. And whereas the New Jersey Center for Tourette Syndrome and Associated Disorders, the nation's first center for excellence for Tourette syndrome, are actively providing services to families, education, medical professionals, and teachers, and supporting research to better understand the signs and treatment of Tourette syndrome. Now, therefore, be it resolved that June 4th, 2020 has been recognized as Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day, and that the Township of Belleville, and this special day to promote understanding, compassion, and acceptance for all our fellow citizens who deserve and need our support to break the stigma that surrounds Tourette syndrome. So, Matteo, I'm going to present this to you, and again, this is all made possible because of you, so thank you so much. Next on our agenda, I need to entertain a motion for executive session. Unlike when we're in the municipal council chambers, where we ask the audience to leave the room, we're going to have you stay seated. We're going to exit once we break into executive session and have discussion on several topics. We have a discussion on negotiations, personnel, and a tax appeal settlement. Those are the items that we'll be discussing. So I need a motion to enter into executive session.
Motion is on the private.
We have a motion. No action will be taken, and we're going to resume the live feed when we come out of executive session. So at this point, we can put our notice up, and we're going to exit the room. We should not be long, but we will be back shortly. For a motion to exit executive session?
Make a motion. Second.
Tommy, your mic's not on. Motion made in second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Robel? Mayor Millen?
Yes. So thank you for bearing with us. We came out of executive session. As I mentioned before, no action was taken ever or in executive session. We're now rejoining our agenda. The next item on our agenda, since this is the first meeting in a month, we are in our committee conference meeting. Various council members or professionals can put anything they want on the agenda for discussion. We have two topics to discuss. The first one is mine, is the hospital tax exempt bill. Just by way of giving some information, I did put up a post last week about this, and it kind of came out of the blue. This has been something that's been brewing in Belleville for over 4 years. I inherited this administration, which was all kind of new. All inherited this. This is a tax exempt bill that passed the Assembly many years ago. It was back before the Senate. We've had outside counsel on this now for many years. Our tax assessor and tax attorneys have been in court with Claremont and various of their subsidiaries, I guess, on tax appeals. It stems back to a Morristown case about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. And whereas what it means to Belleville is this. We have, the Morristown case says that hospitals are tax exempt. However, if they acquire additional property, like a professional building, and they rent it to for-profit practitioners, they still have to pay tax on that. We agree with that. The township's position has been that we agree with that. And because of that case 4 years ago, I'm calling it 4 years, it's the Morristown case, we have about $98 million in assessments for Claremont and multiple subsidiaries. We've been in court with them for 4 years. Again, it predates me. I've only been briefed on this formally twice, and the last week or so I've really gotten into it. We maintain that they owe us $11 million, and that's in court right now. We might get $11 million, we might settle and get less. The issue is this, though, and I know I'm speaking to the audience here, but during our caucus meeting, it's not really back and forth, so really I'm trying to educate my council colleagues that might not know as much about this as I've recently learned. The issue with this bill is this bill does a couple things that hurt Belleville. And today, I had a conference call with Mayor Baraka and our legislative delegation because our entire L29 legislative district only represents Newark and Belleville. So we had a Zoom conference call today, and I kind of educated the mayor on it a bit. He has a different opinion in certain parts of the bill, but where the bill really hurts us is hospitals will be inclined to give a contribution called a community benefit, and that community benefit we feel is very low. It's $2.50 per bed per day. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you can't have a single bed, unfortunately. They've exempted a whole bunch of beds. We get about 300 in our estimates, and assessments and estimates are very difficult to get straight answers on. Yes, my attorney sitting to the left, we've been trying to do this for 2 weeks now. We believe that we get about $310,000 if the bill passes. We're currently collecting about $460,000, so already we lose money. But we have litigation going on for 4 years for other properties that we believe will owe $11 million, and if this bill passes, that negates all that. So it's not about the $110,000 or $140,000 difference that it seems it is right now. It's more about the additional properties that it comes to. So I was heading down to Trenton to discuss that bill. As we were heading down, they pulled it. That might sound like it's a good thing. It's not really. It's probably going to emerge again within the next 30 days. You'll be seeing me going down there. But it does seem like the League of Municipalities is on our side. It does seem like we've now gotten the attention of our delegation. It does seem like we will be able to bring York aboard with us in fighting our case with us. The worst part about the bill is not necessarily the $110,000 or $130,000 per year that we lose. It's that once they pass this bill, it negates our 4 years worth of litigation. Anything pending in tax court is gone. So the money the taxpayers spent to fight this case for 4 years, the money that we think we're owed, and all that is gone. It's just gone. So that's obviously the biggest problem that I have with it. But I've been briefed only twice in 2.5 years on this. I'm certain that my council colleagues probably knew less than that. And I've really gotten into it for the past 2 weeks. So I put this item on the conference agenda just so I can give an update to my council colleagues. The manager's been intimately involved. I recruited Mr. Martino recently, although we do have outside counsel handling this. And that's really the end-all be-all. $98 million in assessments. We believe we're only $11 million. We might get the 11 if we prevail in court. We might settle and get less. This legislation, if passed as is, it negates any pending lawsuits. It negates any pending appeals. And going forward, we get less money every year. And going forward after that, if hospitals acquire more land and rent to for-profit businesses and practitioners, they're tax exempt. One of the arguments I was going to make before Senate is that having a hospital within your jurisdiction is a positive thing for the real estate market, for the rental market. Well, if hospitals are then inclined to become real estate holding companies and have an incentive to acquire property, we just lose all that benefit of having professional buildings and such. You might give you an example. Claremont built a second building. Sanitas is in there now. They're basically a Medi-Center, clinic. They're a for-profit enterprise. They pay Claremont's rent. Well, if this goes through, we get no tax on that property that they're in. And that's just not fair. It's not fair for Belleville. It's not fair for anybody that's got a hospital or a community in it. Newark has 3 hospitals. Belleville has 1. Plus, they might count continuing care facilities, and Newark has even more exposure. So I'm working with my counterpart in Newark to try and bring them along, and I think after today, they have a better understanding of what's going on with it. So at this point, unfortunately, if anybody in the audience has a question about that, you can ask it during public commenting or public participation. At this point, I need to open it up to any of my council colleagues if you have any specific questions or anything to say. No? Okay. With that being said, I'm going to move on to our Deputy Mayor, Mr. Graziano, with the technology update.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to give you all an update on where we are. As of now, Town Hall, not only Town Hall, all employees are updated with our recent mail. It's no longer local, it's in the cloud. So that's a standard. Our hardware, all employees throughout Belleville, police, fire, and other employees now have updated hardware standards across the board, including antivirus, including malware, something that we haven't had. We also installed new firewalls for protection. And doing so, we actually split the network. That was a mandate from the state for police. So we separated the networks. We are now, Township is on their own internet connection, along with their own firewall, and police are in the process of doing that. Along with the network, we have upgraded, we're in motion in updating upgrading our network. In the past, we had residential connectivity. Let me repeat that, residential connectivity. We are now in business grade connectivity in an MPLS network. So we're actually working with it's Town Hall, it's fire, DPW, recreation, all firehouses. So that's in flight as we speak. And I just want to give you an update on that. And does anybody have any questions for me?
I know, Deputy Mayor, I know that we last week brought in a fiber optic line. As the Deputy Mayor said, we had residential connectivity there, and that was on a good day. Our Wi-Fi was horrible. Any of the new audio video equipment in our council chambers we couldn't use because we couldn't get a stream out. So now I know there's a T1 line, a fiber optic line that came in. Will we have Wi-Fi anytime soon?
So yes, the council chambers are complete, and we will have connectivity, actually we tested it, it is there, we can stream with no problems, and it's going to be that way throughout our other buildings.
You have to understand, we went from the Stone Ages. We were literally writing on tablets and carving messages to each other. I mean, and COVID exposed a lot of this, that we couldn't work remote, and thankfully we had the foresight to be ahead of this. This process was already in place, and some of it is being replaced by actually CARES Act money. Anything remote, anything audio, video, for the most part, we can use it for remote meetings. It's been that way. I have to say, the technology, the hardware, everything that we've done, I see an improvement in Town Hall and the efficiency and how people are operating. We're sharing documents. Everything used to be stored locally. Everybody had their own local printer. Now we're doing network. We've really, really done it about face, and thank you for taking lead on this. I know Councilman Revelle was involved early on, but thank you for being in Town Hall all the time and taking the lead like you have on this. Any questions for Deputy Mayor? No? All right, we're going to move on. Did I hear a question? Okay, next item is going to be the report of the manager. If you're following our agenda, it's item number 7. Mr. Manager.
Good evening, everyone. First, let me say it's great to see some familiar faces. Probably more important, healthy familiar faces. This last 8 months clearly have been a challenge to all of us. What we've all been going through has clearly been something that we have not been able to ever expect or plan. I'd like to say that things are certainly getting better as it pertains to this pandemic, but numbers have recently showed that we may be getting ready for an upswing and an increase going into the flu season. So again, we monitor that very carefully and act accordingly. Just today, in school number 4, there was a positive contact, and fortunately, through the protocol that we have to use by the State Department of Health, there were probably just somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 people that were in contact with the positive result. So luckily, the entire school does not have to be shut down. It did have to be shut down, but there are precautions that had to be taken so that approximately 20, whether it's staff or students, had to be quarantined. But again, this is unfortunately the new normal for now, and we continue to work in that direction. One of my items that I did want to report is that this week, the mayor and council received notification that Deputy Chief Marty Lutz, who serves as a deputy chief on the fire department, who also serves as the OEM coordinator, is retiring at the end of the year. And I can only tell you the amount of work and the type of and the level of work that Marty has done these last 8 months. So certainly he's going to be missed as a friend, as an employee, but certainly as the guy to remember who did steer us through this pandemic. And certainly we owe a great gratitude to Marty Lutz and wish him the best on his retirement. One of my items that I'd like to report, we're about ready to roll out the Belleville Home Improvement Program. This is a very exciting program. We're going to get as much public information out there as possible. But the first step in this process is to qualify local contractors. So you're going to be hearing about this and reading about this. So whether you're a GC, a plumber, electrician, a roofer, a window person, you can come in, get qualified. It's a very short application. Obviously, you have to have certain things in place, insurance and your business license. And then once we get the database of contractors, then we will be able to provide that to residents that want to participate in this program. This program represents, on an average, improvements on homes of anywhere from 10 to 22,000 in improvements. And these are grants and not loans. So this is it's a gift from the government, certainly, and we're very happy to be part of it. And certainly we're going to administer that. So you're going to be hearing a little bit about, in the near future, the Belleville Home Improvement Program, and for contractors that may be out there today, certainly we're excited to get you guys involved in the program. One of our projects, we're working on a bunch of projects. One of the projects is the municipal parking lot on the west side. We reported that we repaved it. It was in great disrepair. We're putting new lighting, and the pay station just came in. And that pay station is obviously going to generate lost revenue that we haven't had in a while. So we're looking obviously forward to a healthy municipal parking lot. Municipal parking lot adjacent to Town Hall is also going to have a pay station similar to the one on the west side. And again, that's much needed revenue that we have been missing. So I did want to report on that. I know the mayor's going to report on, we have a list of events coming up and activities, and we have a bunch of new programs that we have more or less are in the planning stage. So as much as it may be too early to report on tonight, I can tell you between basketball, dog parks, and nature parks, we have a lot on the board, and we will have a busy winter and spring, and hopefully you'll see some immense improvements. And I guess the last thing I want to do is just certainly thank Dr. Tomko and the Board of Education for allowing us to use this building tonight. Dr. Tomko has clearly been a great partner in our success in getting through this pandemic, so we send a big thank you to the Board of Education as well.
Thank you, Ann. So, next item on our agenda is going to be the report of the mayor. So, if you haven't noticed by now, I think everybody here seated is wearing pink. We tend to do this every year in October in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm assuming we're going to do maybe the second meeting as well, but that's why you're curious as to why everyone's wearing pink. That's why I want to reiterate what the manager said. I want to thank Dr. Tomko for his hospitality and for opening us up here and working with us. Jeff in the back, he's done a great job. His team, staff, everybody's worked really hard to make us comfortable and seamlessly transition us to here. You might be wondering why we're here. We're here because about 2 or 3 weeks ago, after our last council meeting, an update came out with guidelines. We reviewed those guidelines, and those guidelines basically stated that we have to, if we can get to a larger facility and stream it, we're going to do that. I don't know much about it beyond that. It did happen after our last meeting. This is our first council meeting that we're here, and that's the exact reason why we're here. If Mr. Martino could just give us a quick little rundown on that.
Yeah, so back in a time of an emergency, well, the Director of Department of Community Affairs didn't do that until recently. Actually, Kelly, the clerk, received the notice of it on September 24th, which was actually 2 days after our last meeting. When she received that, she provided it to me, and I reviewed it to determine what our obligations were. Director of Community Affairs, these actually rules and regulations, when there's a declared emergency, are in effect, yet they're not law yet. They haven't been published in the New Jersey Register. They're scheduled to be considered on October 19th, although they are in effect. So as soon as those regulations became in effect and the Director of Community Affairs issued them and gave us guidelines, we put this in place, and I think Anthony that day, or the next day, the 25th, I think, contacted Dr. Tomko to see if this was a possibility and just initiated the initial discussions. So that's why we're here and following these regulations, and we'll decide on when, if the governor changes anything with respect to the number of people in a room, where we think there must be, 15, 20 people here, maybe 20, 25 people. Everybody that's sitting in here right now could not be in the council chambers. But because of these regulations and our guidance, we were able to get here.
Thank you, Mr. Martino. I just counted while Mr. Martino was speaking. So we have 20 people in the audience. We would not be able to have this meeting in our council chambers. I enjoyed the face-to-face. I think it's easier for me to maintain the meeting. I look forward to being in our new council chambers. Many of you have not seen it. since the recent upgrades, and I want to get in there. Our capacity is 120, 25% leaves at 30. We have an entire seated council with professionals. That would only leave us about 15 people or so if we have to refuse entry.
Yeah, the capacity is 30, but if we follow the guidelines, we can't fit 30. There's not enough seating where you can sit 6 feet apart and accommodate that amount of people, so you couldn't even have 30.
Gotcha. So that's over here, and we'll be here until something changes in the near future. Can you go? Okay, so continue with the mayor's report. Thank you, Mr. Martino, for that. Today, just some updates. Today is the last day to register to vote for the for the November general election. Just keep in mind, today is the last day. This is the first year that we're allowed to register online. So technically, even though our clerk's office is open until 9 o'clock for walk-in registrations, you have until technically 11:59 to get your online registration submitted to be able to register to vote. Speaking of deadlines, you may have heard that the census has also been extended through the end of the month. Belleville has already surpassed our numbers from 10 years ago. Still not happy. We want to be better than 70%, which is what we're closing in on. So you'll be seeing some census events coming up in the near future. This morning, I had a mayor's call. Every single Tuesday, I do that with the county. I was updated on Belleville's numbers, and it does look that Belleville has now submitted 3,178 ballots, which in my opinion is a little low. Of those 3,100 ballots, 2,028 of them were actually put in our secure drop box. So I still think we're a little low. We probably sent out, the county probably sent out 17 or 18,000 ballots to our nearly 17, 18,000 registered voters. Granted, people are used to waiting till the last minute to vote. You will get another notice from the county, but we obviously want to get that number up. Again, 3,100 ballots are in. Speaking of our secure drop box, it is located at Town Hall. It is located in the entranceway from the side parking lot in between the two buildings. We did that for several reasons. One, it wasn't our call. We allowed it to go there though, because that entranceway now has a security officer there, 9 to 5. We have eyes on it there. And also that was the best location for not one but two different cameras to have 24-hour surveillance on it. And it is bolted to the ground. Again, the county decided that. We just kind of gave the okay to it. It is bolted to the ground. I have to say, as much as I'm not in favor of a mandated all vote by mail election, we have no choice. This is the only way to vote. And I was in Town Hall when I saw that box get empty. So that box is empty daily. That box is not in the possession of the United States Post Office. That box is empty once a day by election officials, one Republican and one Democrat. I've seen them come. They open the box. It's two different people. Again, I said one Republican and one Democrat. They're also escorted by a member of the Essex County Sheriff's Department, and daily they arrive to empty that box. That's how we know that number of 3,100. Last thing on this is that we have a website, a web page on our township website. If you go to BellevilleNJ.org, the right-hand side, it's called 2020 Election Information. All the links that we post are always there. So if you need help assisting with your ballot, it's there. If you want to know where the polling locations are going to be, it's going to be there. You cannot vote on the machine on Election Day. Town halls, phones ring. I'm spending a little extra time on this because no matter how many times I talk about it, somebody still tells me they're going to the polls on Election Day to vote. I say you can go to the polls, but you will not be able to cast your ballot traditionally on a machine. You can hand in your ballot if you have it, or you could then vote provisionally, which will then be counted last. I tell people all the time, use the secure drop box. Why is that? A new law came out for this election saying that 10 days before the election, the clerk's office can begin counting. Not a favor of counting before an election, but what it does is if your ballot is rejected for any reason, they have 24 hours to notify you, and you have actually until November 21st, about 3 weeks after the election, to correct that ballot. So that's actually one silver lining when it comes to that. As the manager touched on, I spoke with Claire Moss on Monday. I was with Mary Ellen Klein. She did say, indeed, they are in preparation for a second wave. You got to understand that when they talk about a second wave, they're talking about positive cases. They're not talking about hospitals being overrun. They're not talking about deaths. They're talking about positive cases. So she did say that they are seeing an uptick. And Newark really had about 50 or 60 cases the previous day. We expected this week to see a rise. We did see a slight uptick, but we are already not seeing the rise as of my stats that I got yesterday and today. But just be on the lookout for that. Anthony touched on the fact that we do have some retirees. I had the ability last week to say goodbye to about 3 or 4 long-serving municipal employees that have retired. One of them is our Deputy Fire Chief, Mr. Lutz, who also served as our OEM coordinator. He served with distinction for the past, I think I appointed him a little over a year ago. Most OEM officers have, they deal with a flood here or there. He got COVID. And it was a unique time for us all. We all did a lot of learning, but we're going to be sad to see him go. I do want to say that we did have a meeting in the manager's office with representatives from the school district to discuss the Belleville Municipal Stadium. Those who've been following that, it's probably a $4.5 to $5 million project to upgrade the municipal complex here. It's going to include a competitive track that can hold statewide meets, which is really good. They don't have one in this area. I believe it's an 8-lane track, turf. We're going to recarpet the varsity field. One thing that came out of that meeting, we did have a lot of good feedback from the board. And there's a subcommittee, myself, the deputy mayor, Mr. Cazzarelli, meet with the manager and our engineer on this. And before we made any final decisions, we wanted to consult with the school district. And we were grateful to have their feedback. We consulted with the school district and also our rec department. Why not? That's how we make informed decisions. So that project is well on its way. I did want to give you all an update on the hospital bill, but most of you were here and you heard that discussion already, so I'm going to skip that one. One of the last things I'm going to say is that I received some interesting emails all the time. This one was quite interesting. I initially laughed, but it's not a laughing matter. It's actually quite serious, which is sad. I got a strange email last week about, and again, I get odd emails, but I got one that was about a local neighborhood in Belleville by Greylock Parkway in that area there by Washington Avenue about squirrels that were painted. And I'm saying to myself, this has got to be a joke. And I look at the email, and there's photographs of squirrels that are blue and red. And initially you say it's a laughing matter, but it wasn't. It was a serious matter. It's animal cruelty. We did refer that we have an animal cruelty officer that has investigated. He found it to be somewhat plausible, so much so that the Belleville Police Department has issued an alert to residents in those areas. We don't know if somebody's trapping them and painting them, or somebody, even worse, would be shooting them with a paintball gun. But if you see this on social media, please do share it if you see that notice going out. I did receive notice today that we've done a lot of great work here in Belleville with sustainability in our green team. I see this Gabby Bennett is here in the audience. Second round of reviews of municipal applications were processed today, and she was excited to announce that our application submitted met the criteria to be considered a bronze level sustainable community. So thank you, Gabby, and the council people that serve on the green team. There's going to be a virtual recognition program coming up in the near future. Real quick, just going to end with some events. Belleville's having a job fair. That is going to be tomorrow from 10 to 4 p.m. at the Senior Center. Amazon is hiring drivers. We encourage anybody in need of work or extra work to show up to that. It's at the Senior Center tomorrow, October 14th from 10 to 4. Essex County Recycling, Computer Recycling Day, something that I always take advantage of, will be Friday and Saturday. More info on our website. Library's got a lot of good things happening every single Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. We do ESL conversation via Zoom. On the 20th from 2:30 to 4, we're having Let's Chalk About It, which is a program that paints, it's going to decorate Academy Street with children covering the street with chalk, which is always good. Something I'm looking forward to is outdoor pumpkin painting on Friday, October 23rd from 11 to 2. Again, this information is either on our township website or the library website. Halloween story time on the 27th from 10:30 to 11. And lastly, our Community Shred Day, an event that a lot of people participate with in Belleville, will be at the Senior Center where it always is. That's going to be in November on the 17th. The one thing I will end with will be that as mayor, I have the unfortunate task at times of always sending I like to communicate to residents and educate them whenever possible. So it's always my name and my letter that's in your tax bill advising you of the next increase, or in your water bill advising you of the next. It's always me, and it's always my letter, but I'm committed to educate people and let them know why. I've said it on social media, and my letter says it fairly clearly. There is a water rate increase coming. There hasn't been a water rate increase since 2012 or 14? 2014. The last time Belleville changed our water rates was 2014, long before me. We changed our water rates in 2014, so the last 6 years, we haven't increased our rates. Here's the problem with that. Belleville purchases our water. We purchase water from Newark, and Newark, every single year, ticks up, by our contract, ticks up the rate. So Belleville was running a huge deficit every single year to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars while we were in contract. The problem gets worse. We've been out of contract now for about 2 or 3 years now? No, four.
4 years.
We've been out of contract now for 4 years. So while we've been out of contract for 4 years, we've been paying that last tick up 4 years ago. You go to sign a contract with Newark to renew, and they say, you can sign this contract, but you owe us $1.6 million because your contract expired 4 years ago. You were paying the rate from 4 years ago. It would have, if you negotiated 4 years ago, I wasn't here. If you negotiated 4 years ago, it would have ticked up gradually. Instead, now when you renew, you owe us $1.6 million. Anybody that ran a business like this would be out of business. You can't purchase a service or purchase material for X and resell it to your residents for less than that and think you're sustainable. You're not. So unfortunately, again, we had to tick up our rates, which is why you're seeing that increase. It's absolutely for no other reason other than the fact that Newark has increased our rates and we owe Newark $1.6 million, a portion of which we've already started to pay down, I'm told. And there's no secret to it. That's the exact reason. We were out of contract for 4 years and we haven't increased our water rates for a long period of time. But that, anybody that's a homeowner that gets a water bill, you'll be getting that letter from me. And again, it's always my name. So people knock me when I get the publicity or when something good happens and I seem to get the credit, even though the credit is the entire council. Also understand that it's always my name and my letterhead in the letters that go up for your taxes, which usually is a tax increase. And for something like this, it's always me. I feel it's my job to explain exactly why we're in the situation that we're in. That's it. That was an extended mayor's report. We haven't been around for a while. I'm going to move on to committee reports. I'm going to start to my left, the deputy mayor. I know he already gave an IT update, but I'm working with who's here in front of me now. To my right, Councilman Cosarelli. I hit all the parts. Okay. Anybody on the phone? We have Councilman Ravel on the phone.
No, I'm good. Vinny spoke, and you guys already spoke about the green team.
Green team. Okay. Councilwoman DePena.
Nothing at the moment, thank you.
Okay. We're moving on to item number 10 in our agenda, which is the approval of minutes.
None at this time, Mayor.
Item number 10. How about item number 11, which is communications?
A request received from Michael Doxis for permission to conduct their annual Michael's Boss Common House Breast Cancer 5K Walk on Saturday, October 31st, starting at 9 a.m.
What do we normally do with these? I know we do it every year, but we just send it, we don't vote? Send it to the police? Okay, we're going to forward that to the police department for coordination.
Sure.
Next item on our agenda is item number 12, which is ordinances for introduction.
Number 1, an ordinance to amend the revised general ordinances in the Township of Belleville, Chapter 8-8, designated loading zone.
Need a motion?
Make a motion.
Need Mike's on.
Make a motion?
Second.
Motion made in second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Rovell?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Next item we have is item number B, which is ordinances for public hearing and second and final reading.
Ordinance number 1 for public hearing, an ordinance to amend the revised general ordinances in the Township of Belleville, Chapter 8-6A, four-way stop intersections designated.
Make a motion open for public hearing.
Second.
Motion made in second to open public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're in public hearing. Seeing no questions on this particular matter, I'll entertain a motion to close and move for final adoption.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close and move for final adoption. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Rovell?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Ordinance number 2.
Ordinance number 2 for public hearing, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Belleville and County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $9,165,000, therefore authorizing the issuance of $8,941,200 $250. Bond or note to the township to finance the costs thereof.
Make a motion open for public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, open for public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment. Mr. Frantantoni's first. Mr. Frantantoni, new rules today. We're going to have you come forward to the podium here. After Mr. Frantantoni concludes his comments, we're going to have it clean before every speaker. Just make sure that microphone is on, Mr. Frantantoni.
Can we know what this is for?
Just make sure that microphone is on, if you can. If not, check it down the rest.
Good evening. Yes, can we know what this is for, this $9 million?
Sure, I'm going to look at it myself. I can give you the large points. This is something typical that we do every time we go out to bond, whether it's for roads, whether it's for equipment for the fire department, equipment for the police department. We have vehicles, we have speed trap, radar guns. I believe we have body cams in this. I'm going to just look at it. I know we have body cams in here, an alarm system for the rec house, which by law we're told that we now need. We do have some equipment going in public works. We have Main Street flood mitigation work being done, police department acquisition of guns, a portable camera system, body cameras for our police radios, a message trailer with speed radar, several different radar units, a new 911 recorder. I can't get it. Is that microphone on? I can't hear you.
I didn't say nothing.
Fire department, I didn't get there yet. Fire department is in there for new, Anthony, I know we have our CFO here. If you want to maybe answer a little more detail, I can just read what I said.
Mr. Franklin, what is the question?
Just overall, what the bond is for.
Are these items that were listed in the budget under the capital budget? Some of these trucks and equipment for public works?
Public Works, I have the acquisition and installation of the heating ventilation system, air conditioning, gas pump, and compressors, all work material, needed and related costs, repair of the parking lot down there, and all work materials necessary thereof. Fire department, somebody asked that the acquisition of utility vehicles, including all related costs, upgrade to Washington Avenue, which needs the upgrade to Washington Avenue Fire Station, and again, all necessary materials. I don't see the equipment there for DPW. For DPW, I see heating and air conditioning, and I also see, oh, different. I got it, it is stock. Yes, it is. The acquisition of
Garbage truck.
Yeah, according to the capital budget, there's a lot of trucks and equipment there. Is that right? Well, I have no problem buying trucks. The problem I have, DPW does not maintain or clean the equipment. You bought another new vacuum truck about a year ago. Look at Belleville, and like we used to do in Belleville, it comes in off the road and they power wash and clean it. It looks like brand new after a couple of years. Ours, you got all the grime on it. It's an embarrassment to look at some of our trucks. And then I watch the employee just throw equipment in, break the tailgates, and they're all dented up and all. It's unbelievable. We used to have a director of Parks and Public Property when I was in office, and 29 years before I was in office, who was a clean freak. No truck went in that William Tree garage at the end of the day unless it was clean. In fact, they used to call the garage the hospital because he kept it so clean. But we're not doing it with our trucks. Look at our equipment. So we're going to buy all this new equipment. You've got to maintain and keep it clean, you know? And you can do it. And I'm in business a long time. I still have jobs in Phillipsburg and Nanuet, New York. I do some work up there. And I got a 24-year-old van. But I take care of it. So if we're going to buy this equipment, somebody's got to look at that it's got to be maintained in the proper manner and clean. And especially a vacuum truck, it's really a disgrace when I look at it. So, and the other is part of that $9 million for the, what you're talking about, the track and the stadium?
No.
that's how I'm doing. Thank you.
Anybody else on this particular ordinance? Seeing none, is there a motion to?
Motion to close public hearing, move for final adoption.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close public hearing and move for final adoption. Clerk call roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Tanya? Councilwoman Bennett? Graziano?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bennett, are you there?
Councilman DeMaria? You may have already counted before, but on the bottom we need 5, and we're trying to relocate Councilman DeMaria, which line may roll call.
I'm saying yes. I don't think you can hear much.
Now we hear you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilwoman DeMaria?
Yes.
Okay.
The ordinance is approved.
The ordinance is carried. Thank you. Next item we have is ordinance number 3.
An ordinance amending chapter 18 land subdivision, chapter 19 land use procedures, chapter 20 site plan, and then chapter 23 zoning in the towns of Belleville and County of Essex, New Jersey.
Make a motion open for a public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to open for public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
We are now open for public hearing. Do we have any comment on this particular ordinance? An explanation? This has been before this was just approved at the planning board. These are revisions to our zoning ordinance. A couple of things, bullet points to the top of my head, include now a subcommittee so that people don't have to take as long to make an actual application, go before the board. If it's not really in accordance with the master plan, that it's a subcommittee that's going to streamline different things. I think there's something in there again about pools going within 3 feet, signs, fences. We have something about colors. If you saw some of my posts recently about some of these neon green colors or neon pink colors being painted throughout the town, it's not so easy to do that. We can ask nicely the property owners to paint them a different color, but we have no bite. Now we actually have, and it's not easy to legislate aesthetics and taste, but now we have wording in there about neutral colors and neutral tones and stuff like that. Most of them are just minor little things. We did a big ordinance change some time ago. These are different recommendations that we've had from different people, different committees, different boards that have actually given us some insight. That's really what we're doing.
Mayor?
And we have more to add. So.
Yeah, just some more to add to that. If you look through, look at the fences, pretty much at a high level with some of the ordinances, with some of the, with some of the items, meaning fences, pools, and sheds, we actually giving property back to the taxpayer. There's, like you used to be 5 feet away, 3 feet away, and we're giving more property back, which is, I believe, which is excellent, and others did, and still do. So, Mayor, if you can, if there's, with all of the good that's coming out of this, there's a lot of good information, can, instead of looking for it, can we post this out on the website?
Yeah, if you get it to the manager will make sure your rights are where to go, it'll go.
No, great, because there's a lot of good information there.
Something else, just again, I have a memo here from our planners as to what some of the changes were. If you have a storefront, say you're in a strip mall, and that strip mall is very large, and you want to change the store, sometimes you have to still go before a board to do that. And a lot of tenants, and they want to pay the rent, they want to make sure the use is okay, they just want to go. If you're doing anything, it means that we've lowered that threshold down. So if you were making changes, any disturbance in the service area between 3,000 and 10,000, now less than that, and you can actually get through just dealing with our construction code official and not having to go for board. Again, it's going to take a lot of responsibility away from the board, but it's also going to eliminate the backlog that we seem to have, and we have so many cases that we can't get everybody heard. Again, these are all just minor changes. The big changes happened about a year ago. Anybody else? I actually do need you to come up to the microphone, sorry.
You say the painting, are you talking about houses and stores, or what's not?
When you're talking about the painting, you're saying houses and stores, the colors of them that you want?
The exterior facades. So you can't have a neon green storefront anymore. You can't have a neon yellow storefront anymore. You have to have neutral color. And I think it's just commercial property.
Oh, not houses, just so they have to come for approval before they do it, is that right?
No, it just has to now be in accordance with the ordinance. They can't paint bright green or bright.
So you're saying neutral colors?
Neutral colors, yeah.
That's nice.
I'm the one that's using the phone fighting with the property owners. Anybody else?
I received an ordinance as chairman of the zoning board about 2 weeks ago, and I assume that's the one that you're voting on tonight. In that ordinance, it said that you were changing things to require, if I'm not mistaken, 1 parking space per bedroom. I didn't touch nothing. Is that in this? Or is that a separate ordinance that I received? I assume that's the one that was on tonight.
Off-street parking and load requirements.
Yeah, and any room that can be considered used as a bedroom, such as a den, such as a computer room, that would now require 1 parking space per room.
Right, so a lot of these recommendations came from the planning board, whereas, and again, I think it's a benefit to Belleville, because now you can build a 1-bedroom with a den, and unfortunately, we know that oftentimes that count to us as a bedroom, you're going to have to then agree to the parking requirement.
Right.
But again, these are good recommendations.
Oh, I agreed with that wholeheartedly, by the way, and especially the part where it says anything that can be construed for a bedroom. Because that's happened before the zoning board, like you can't believe. We approve so many bedrooms per unit, all of a sudden, there's a den added in that wasn't there before. You know, so I agree with that wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Put microphones to the floor.
No, I got it steady. I got it steady.
Anybody else on this particular ordinance?
Oh,
I reviewed the ordinance, many of the things,
Microphone on.
many of the things I agree with. Are there changes to the zoning map?
I did get a copy of the zoning map, but no, there's no.
It was mentioned all the way at the end.
Well, I'm looking at a different item. I'm looking at a memo. There's commercial property, one particular lot. There's commercial property at the end of Montgomery Street.
Title was zoning map. The very last item on the ordinance. The very last item on the ordinance mentioned. Says Franklin Avenue, if there are changes to the map.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There appears to be one lot. It's an RC lot on Montgomery Street. It's going from RC to BB2. BB2, from my recollection, is the Valley Industrial Business Area. This lot is, where would that be, Montgomery Street. So that's that industrial area. I want to describe it, but the industrial area that's, you know where it is. So that use is industrial, but it was in the RC zone. We just literally changed it to the BB2 zone, so now the zone matches the uses that are going there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else on this particular ordinance? No? Could I entertain a motion to close?
Motion to close public hearing, move for final adoption.
Second.
Motion made and second to close public commenting and move for final adoption. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Teddy? Graziano?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
Ordinance is approved.
For those who did not hear, I did hear Councilman Bennett say yes. You might need another battery. I did hear her say yes.
Yes, you did.
Mr. Donnie.
While we're waiting on the battery, we're going to move forward with our agenda. Next item is item number 13, public comments. Need a motion to open public commenting.
Make a motion to open public comment.
Second.
Motion made and second to open public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're now open for public commenting. Just like always, just what you saw in the ordinance of second reading, I do need you to come on down. We should be getting your name and address for the record as always, and just speak clearly as you can into the microphone, Mr. Gross.
First of all, let me just say welcome back. Mario Charles, 95 Bell Street, Belleville. I started writing, I found out that the meeting was here, so I guess I don't have to probably sound muffled, because everybody sounds muffled to me too.
Yes.
Let me just read a few things because I've been listening since March, just we haven't been able to attend the meeting. And I just wanted to, I kept hearing the same thing over and over, so I just want to read a few things that I wrote. A number of times I've heard the mayor say that we finally have a full-time town manager, which I am glad. In 1990, the town council hired his first full-time manager, Bert Campbell, a professional manager. He was only with us 2 years because it's like a guy and a girl going out together and they just didn't get along and somebody has to depart. And that will always happen. After that, we had a full-time manager named Steve Cuccio, who was a full-time manager. He was a former administrator of Fort Lee, former administrator of Bergen County. Upon getting ill, he was replaced by Ray Kimball, which was a director of public safety and town manager on a full-time basis. That saved us $170,000 at the time. But I'm not sure of the years that Ray Kimball came back and was a full-time manager, so I'm not going to discuss that. Then I know there were part-time managers after I left office in 2000. Now, we talked about saving money from replacing the buyout with employees, bringing in employees at a lower level. Well, when I was on the council, we did that already. We eliminated in the 90s 44 titles. We didn't fill them. Secretaries at that time were making $45,000 a year. We replaced them with $22,000 clerical positions.
Somehow they got back up to 90.
Excuse me?
Somehow they got back up to 90.
We're back.
Since your absence.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, so that's what we brought them in. But I'm just trying to give you a little history because, there are governing bodies, including yourself, when you took over my position, that everybody tried to save money. Just refreshing your memory and let the council know that the previous governing bodies did make an attempt to do things. Now here, we're saving money. But what I'm looking at here is the $250,000 you spent on the council renovations and your office. Is it true?
Just to stop you before you ask the wrong question, we did not spend $250,000.
Oh, you bonded for $250,000.
We did not spend $250,000 on council.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
We did not.
I don't have the answer.
I just gave it to you.
Okay, good. Is it true that you bought leather couches and velvet wool in your office?
There is a mayor's office. The bond was in place to renovate not just the mayor's office, but there were 3 different rooms that were renovated, including a handicap accessible bathroom, which we would have been in a lawsuit if we did not have, and that renovation cost $38,000 for 3 different rooms, including a handicap accessible bathroom, which is actually very, very
I don't want to take up your time. I'm going to finish up and so you can respond.
Sure.
Okay, just so you know, a piece of history. In 1997, we were the first one to eliminate longevity for new hirees. That alone, if you look at the numbers today, are saving $5 to $10 million easily. I'm going to give you a Belleville Times article, March 30, 2011. A PBA rep made a comment. 15 years ago, we gave up longevity for new officers. As of that date, 44 out of 99 were not without longevity. That saves you, according to this rep, $500,000 a year. But we did try to do something. Water bills. Around 1993, the city of Newark billed us $6 million, but they never sent us a bill. Sounds like the dilemma that you're in right now. Charlie Cerami, Marina Pern, and Bobby Tadano, the town attorney at the time, sat down with the city of Newark. We negotiated a $1.5 million rentals that we're going to be getting within the township. Basically, based on all the pilot programs that I've seen, if my numbers are correct. I'm just concerned about how it's going to impact the school systems. That's like telling me no people live in illegal dwellings, in illegal basement apartments. I'm just afraid, you may not see it in a year or two, but I could see it come down the road. It's going to impact us. You know, like I said, I prefer personally, I'll say it again, 5-star home ownership, and they do pay their full share of taxes.
I do need you to wrap up.
Yeah, I am. I'm wrapping it up right now. Millennials are on a buying spree, according to Zill, economists say. Economists are telling us. Our taxes are going up, water bills going up, people are unemployed, behind a mortgage on a rent. More than 440 residential and gas accounts were at least 90 days past due on an average of $600. Seniors on fixed income, how are they going to spend to pay all of this? And this is the last one. Why are these meetings at 5 o'clock? Other towns have them at 6 and 7 and 7:30. Why can't the average person can attend? Just one more thing, 3 more items here.
I didn't know you're way out of your time.
I'm done.
Then you have
Food
to.
truck. Why did our town truck go out on a Sunday last month and pick up the garbage from the food truck? And also, all these positions that you buy us, how many of them are being advertised for the public to look at and possibly apply for the job? With their own
No, the whole point of the buyouts are not replacing people. That's how you save money. Buy them out,
I know.
they leave, and then you don't replace them.
Well, I hope so.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Frantantoni?
Got some questions. First of all, Resolution 13, what's that about? Settlement in the matter of Carlo Richard Township.
I'm pulling it up. I believe it's a tax appeal.
That's a tax.
What is it?
It's a residential tax.
A tax
Appeal.
appeal?
It's a residential tax appeal.
Okay. Get back to the water rates increase. Saying North charging us a lot of big rates in there.
Now, I said it ticks up a little bit every year. A lot of big raises is your word. I said it ticks up a little bit every year.
Okay. I'm looking at the budget, this year's budget from 2019 to 2020. We paid Newark purchase of water for 2019, $3.4 million. And this year you got proposed $3.6 million. It's only a $175,000 increase.
We're still out of contract. The new rate hasn't struck yet. We haven't signed a new contract yet. So we're still paying the rate from 4 or 5 years ago when we last were.
And when do you anticipate that?
I could ask our attorney who's negotiating that for us.
I think numerous requests for the contract back from Belleville, and I haven't gotten any from Newark. We want to sign it as soon as possible, but there's a lot going on in Newark, I guess, and I'm just waiting for them to get back to us.
Right, under the line item, but under rents, so the public knows rents are what you take in from our water bills. I don't know what to call rents, but that's what it is. That's relatively the same you received for 2019 and 2020. But then you have another line item that says additional rents, $960,000. That was it. What's that anticipated revenue for?
I'll send that over to Mr. Iacono or our CFO. Judith, just speaking right now.
That's reflective of the increase. in the water rate.
Can you repeat that again?
That's a reflection of the increase in the water rate.
What is that?
A reflection of the increase in the water rate. That's why it's an additional line item.
That's the increase in the water rates?
Well, we're anticipating.
I don't know what you said.
That's the reflection of the increase to the water rate. That's our anticipated revenue from the increase.
Yeah. All right, well, that's, what we're hearing is that the rate's going to be increased double or triple. Is that true?
Yes.
Really? Well, how do you, I mean, that'll put me out of business and the laundromat business and these restaurants. You know, that's what we use is water. And they'll virtually kill us and all that. But I don't see this big increase in there.
Mr. Francis, she just pointed out a $900,000 increase in anticipated revenue. That's the increase. Your question was, what is the $900,000? The answer was, that's the increase. Now you're saying you don't see the increase. That's the increase, $900,000 anticipated revenue. Extra money coming in, $900,000.
Right, but that would be only about roughly 20%.
That's in addition to the rent line item.
That's about 20% of what we worked there. We're taking in $4.4 million, and you're going to have a $960 increase.
That's for this year.
That's for the remainder of this year. There's only about 3 or 4 months this year.
Yeah.
That's what that
That's 900,000 is only reflective of the next 3 or 4 months. 2021, you'll see a larger number than that.
Well, I don't know. And then another line item in the water budget is due from the water capital, $890,000.
Funds are allowed to borrow from one another.
I'm not here.
That is an inter-fund. Funds are allowed to borrow from one another and pay it back.
It's interest?
It's a fund. It's a loan. It's a loan. It's an inter-fund.
All right, from the water department?
Water capital. Water capital is
From the capital budget in the water department?
Yes. Capital, you have in every budget you have a current and you have a capital, just like the water utility. So the water utility has a current budget, which consists of your rents and your normal expenditures. And you also have a capital budget for the water funds, like lead replacement, water lines, so on and so forth. So they're allowed to actually interfund and borrow from each other.
All right, well, there's, again, a lot of paperwork years back. There was a lot of things that were in the water department budget that shouldn't have been there. I hope that's not continuing now. The other item is you got the $4 million bond for the water department. I believe that's the cleaning and relining.
Yes.
Cleaning and relining, that might also include the lead lines, no? Yeah.
Yes, it does include them. It's not actually a bond, it's actually a very low interest loan from the state of New Jersey.
A loan or a grant?
Loan.
Right. What streets are we doing? Where are we actually going to clean or reline? Because we keep hearing about this with the propane money, but never
We're
done.
borrowing the money to do that. I can assure you it's going to happen. I can have the manager's office present you with a list of streets if you need to, but I do need you to wrap up so I can tell you whatever you want.
Well, there's a lot of questions. I don't have enough time yet to say much, but let me tell you, with all these apartments, you know, you've been touting, Mr. Mayor, that all this new income we're going to get, I think you know that the unbelievable amount of apartment rental units in Bloomfield, astronomical. They're still building out all around the train station, all over. They've built all these apartments. And they got a lot of new revenue. And guess what? Taxes didn't even stabilize. My son just got a tax bill, $2,000 increase. with all these apartments. And this is what I and others have been saying. And, you know, you wanted to make Belleville a new Hoboken. I don't know if you read about what's going on in Hoboken. They're complaining, the rentals are getting, they're harder to rent. People are moving into these because the rents are so high, they're taking in other people to live. So it's supposed to be a one-bedroom apartment. You got people living in there, living in the living room and in the hallways to share the rent because they can't afford it. So this is crazy, and this has got to stop. This is overdevelopment.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. I do have to wrap up.
It's got to stop. We're hurting our township, and we're going to kill it. And you're not going to make a new life. You're going to have to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Nyland? Yeah, name and address for the record.
Jeff Maddox, 56 Walnut. It's maybe get a little step here, be a little safer. After 7 months of lockout of public meetings, we're thankful to have our voice back, really. We're coming to realize that there's not going to be any money available from the federal government to bail out large spending Northeast states like we've seen in the past. We're going to be on our own. Towns and city council persons are requesting forensic audits that we've requested multiple times from several administrations. Those audits will disclose where waste is in the budgets and where people maybe don't want to look. Cost analysis, efficiency comparisons to explore savings need to occur. People need now to be accountable to their tax base to root out any areas of savings that we can realize to, alleviate the burden on the taxpayers. Tables of organization analysis to determine waste are what's needed. As we go through these audits, we can target things that can be improved to reduce repetitive tasks. Where you have, now you're talking about $90,000 secretaries, which we know there are secretaries that don't have the workload that are commensurate to $90,000 salaries, and that we can have things modified to examine where their hours are going, and we can hopefully reduce heads, because this is expensive.
So let me just stop you, and I won't take away from your time at all. I agree with you. Unfortunately, like you said, we're in northern New Jersey, we're in the Northeast, we have civil service protection, and if we wanted to find an audit that said, I'm going to give you an example. I've said this example at many, many council meetings in the past few months. Our municipal court. Our municipal court, the revenue is down 45%. Okay, that reflects about $400,000 to $500,000 for the code.
A lot of the economy.
Well, we're not. No inspections are happening. No violations are happening. So our revenue is down. Yet you can't reduce the workload there. You can't go into that department for the civil service protections and say, well, we have 6 people there. In a normal business like mine, probably in yours, you could reduce work. You can't do that. We are bound by civil service, number one, and we're also, actually no, number one, we're bound by union contracts. Number two, we're bound by civil service. Civil service does not protect the taxpayers. Just in case, I used to think that. Civil service is a secondary union that protects the employers. So I agree with you. If you find employees that are making $90,000 a year, that have been making it forever to do very little, let's just say, there's not much we can do, with the exception of having somebody like Mr. Iacono that sits down with certain employees and says, how about we incentivize you to retire?
But isn't that also a matter of organization when you're determining how many people are in a department? And when they said, I mean, if I remember correctly...
I'll give you an example. I think we just had a retirement in the court department, and we didn't replace it. That's the best we can do.
And I do believe that we have to bond to retire people. We don't have the money to retire people because they have such large payouts.
I have no problem with back and forth. So it's actually, we're taking out I'm going to use round numbers, so anybody writing this down, round numbers. We're buying out approximately $500,000 in annual salaries, and it's costing us a one-time $500,000 a year to do that. So, no, it's good. The salaries cost us $500,000 a year. The salaries cost us $500,000.
Right.
It's costing us one time a bond of $500,000 to buy them out. Next year we don't have that $500,000. Next year we don't have that $520,000. Next year after that we don't have the $540,000. We don't have that anymore. So we actually are doing it, but if the economy is a scale, you have to go slow.
All right, let me move on, because we'll cover other things in that area, in that neck of the woods. Have to be able to support themselves in the future, it seems. There's not going to be any big payouts coming from anywhere. There's no big pot of gold. You know, when you look at the fact that we now have a 9-month, budget from the state that basically doesn't incorporate any cost savings, it just defers another 3 months of it, that is also astronomical, that we can't afford, the taxpayers. So this has been coming a long time, and this has been building up and is overdue. We have been warning that this was going to be in our future. At board meetings, county, the town meetings, county meetings, it's like this was coming. It was going to come because we are expending too much money for what the tax base can support. And it keeps growing, growing, growing. You and your committees have been pushing, pilot-funded residential housing. I see he's lit up red, you're ready to talk. Basically, that residential funding vehicles that you're using as pilots, payments in lieu of taxes, are deferring taxation that would otherwise we are already paying for per square foot with the existing tax base. These abatements being...
That is your opinion, but that's okay.
But these abatements being granted to developers are going to defer taxes for many years to come. But they don't include the cost of these rental apartments all over town with 1,000 people we just heard. They're going to put kids in schools. There's no funding basis for that.
There's no statistical facts that say that, by the way.
Pardon me?
There's no statistical facts that say that, but again, you can have your opinion.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. But, have you, in any of those pilots, appropriated any money for the schools? I mean, you're talking rental apartments. They're going to have children. There's no age restriction. There's going to be lots of kids.
That's your opinion, lots of kids.
All right.
I'll give you an example. How about Essex Park? It's a townhouse development with hundreds of units there. Townhouses. Not apartments, not condos, but townhouses. It's actually a gated community. You would think a very nice place to raise children. The last time I checked with the school district, 19 students. You want to know what they pay? In school district real estate, a lot more than what it costs to educate 19 students. And that's a townhouse style development, gated community located here in Belleville.
Your opinion. We've been getting more people than that from our county.
That's a fact from Dr. Tomko's assistant, Ms. Yolanda Luna, in an email she sent me. So it's not an opinion, that's actually a fact. And the apartments that we are building, which you haven't mentioned yet, are mostly one-bedrooms, studio apartments, and what we consider micro apartments. They're basically dormitories.
Well, as you've spoken to, we'll see how many have dens in offices that can be converted into,
We're already accounting for that.
And, okay, well, we will see, because that's exactly what's affecting the surrounding towns like Belleville.
I gave you a lot more time than ever having some back and forth, which is fine, but you are at your limit, I do need to wrap up.
Well, you weren't going to be taking that time when you spoke, but you've been doing a lot of talking on my time.
Which is why you have an extra 3 minutes already.
Maybe after 7 months you can extend me some courtesy. Your developer friends are going to benefit, who contribute to your re-election and campaigns. They're going to make a lot of money off of Belleville. And then in the end, there's not going to be any money going to the schools. So you're saying there are not going to be that many kids? I'm saying there will be. As because there have been in Nutley and Bloomfield, beyond question.
That's actually not true. Actually, in Harrison, they added 3,000 units. I spoke to the mayor. They added 3,000 units.
Sold as new ratables, this is the most expensive. Sold as new ratables to us. This is the most expensive form of ratables to the taxpayers. It has all the requirements that for services, tipping, garbage, collection, police, fire, whichever everyone gets. everyone gets, and that's where, you know, the tax base is reflected in the
I do need
school.
to wrap up, Mr. Mayor.
For property. All right, well, I'm going to continue then
You
because,
have to wrap up, actually.
you know what, 5 minutes after 7 months, this is ridiculous. You're just
That's
trying
not
to
true.
shut me up because I'm
Every single
speaking
meeting
truth.
you've had the opportunity to participate. Every single meeting you've had the opportunity to participate.
Well, you know what, commercial and industrial don't put kids in school, they don't require new teachers in schools to be built. It's all rateables that benefit the taxpayers, not drain for them. So for years to come, there is going to be tax increase on top of tax increase. No stabilization will occur, only tax increases, and now we don't even have money to support what we were getting in the form of grants and things that might dry up on us now, and the state have no money for. We just improved all of these schools. I mean, $48 million, it could translate into $72, I believe, million of taxpayer funds to pay it back. That's a lot of money. But that money was deferred maintenance because all that money over the time went into salaries, pensions, and benefits just like in the town. And so now we have to look a real sharp eye with our you have to determine where cost savings can occur because we're on our own. Belleville's going to have to support Belleville in its entirety. Maybe the state won't contribute half of the fund to our schools like they promised. That could dry up overnight. If they say tomorrow, we don't have any more money for Belleville, the taxpayers of Belleville have been committed. We now have to pay it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
And thank you, everybody. I hope you were listening.
Sir, I'm here for that.
My name is Bobby Liger. I live at 14 Van Rensselaer Street, Belleville, New Jersey. My name is Bobby Liger. I'm here on behalf, first of all, good evening. I'm here on behalf, blatantly. What are you doing to ensure the safety of
I
African?
really can't hear you. You're just trying to speak a little louder.
What are you doing to ensure the safety of African Americans and Hispanic Americans in your township? Brief history about myself. I was a victim of discrimination within the Belleville Police Department when I was being arrested. All charges were dropped. But not only that, as I go through life, I have a lot of individuals that come to me and tell me that they have the same experience, certain officers, things of that nature. What are you doing to train officers and ensure the safety of African Americans and Hispanic Americans?
Is that the totality of your comment?
Yeah, just one out of three.
Okay, so, I think we've had this conversation for the past.
No, we haven't. I've been trying to get in contact with you for over a year now.
Okay, I've never gotten a message or an email or anything from you. But when I say we've had the conversation, as a community, I think we've had the conversation. Discuss the different protocols that our officers go through. Any report of abuse or any report of discrimination is handled by our Internal Affairs Department. And we've, previous meetings, probably going back a few months ago, we rattled off a whole list of training that our officers receive every single year. And that's really what we do, which is, I think, above the state mandate because we are a certified police department as well.
All right, one more question. Is your township considering purchasing body cameras for every police officer and equipping every officer with training in de-escalation of situations de-escalation of situations, and how would you secure the funds and the equipment for additional training?
So the answer is yes. Actually, tonight we already took action. I think you were here the whole meeting.
Yes.
One of the things we voted on is a bond, and that bond is for body cameras for our police department.
All right, and is that the only effective thing you're doing with your police department? How about training on racial police bias, crisis intervention, mediation, conflict resolution, appropriate engagement with the youth, appropriate engagement with LGBT, transgender, and gender non-conforming individuals, and appropriate engagement with individuals who are differently able, and appropriate engagement with individuals who are English learning language.
So I know that the training that they receive, I can't speak to every single one of those because I'm not intimately involved with the police department. I do know that previous council meetings, we've rattled off all the different training they get annually, semi-annually, biannually. I do know that they are at the standard to what the New Jersey state expects of us to do, and we're actually at a higher standard because we are a certified police department.
All right, that will be all.
Thank you. Mr. Antoni?
I wanted to ask, is anything being done for the light down by the ShopRite? Has there been any progress with that light?
On Washington Avenue?
Yes.
That is going to be part of the development that happens across the street from the Motorcycle Mall.
Is it stipulated to him that it has to be in there?
Where once the development is finalized as far as plans and they go before the board for any approvals that they need them, I believe it's going to be a condition of their approval.
Because it doesn't have to be traffic light that's on Union Avenue. The ones that I've seen are all solar and just push the button and run across the street.
Yeah, this is going to be I believe they call it a night hawk. It's a red light one. And we've already talked to DOT. When DOT came in multiple times to discuss the 2022 road improvement program, we floated it to them. It's about $1 million. I think that the developer will be on the hook for half, and the township would probably participate in that.
Be tough with him, I'll let him pay for it all. He's getting no
By all
properties,
means.
you know?
By all means.
Just be tough, because they told me the one on Union Avenue, the town would have to pay, and kept persisting, and we didn't pay a penny for that.
We did pay for one on Franklin Avenue, though.
Yeah, well, one on Union Avenue on Home Street, we didn't, when I spoke with Joe D. We didn't pay anything. But I want to ask one more thing. You said that these apartments are going to be rented, they're all rentals, right? Most of them that are being built, and 1 bedrooms and whatnot, 2 bedroom. We have a property and had 1 bedroom apartment. A couple moved in there, and they had no kids. So you can't say that they won't have kids, because she wound up having 3 in a 1 bedroom apartment. So I don't care what statistics say, you're still going to have kids in 1 bedroom apartments. Across the street from me, got a 3 bedroom apartment, the house is supposed to be, they got bedrooms in the attic, they got bedrooms in the basement, they got bunk beds and everything, there's kids in there. All over Belleville, there are a lot more kids than statistics are saying, because people are not reporting it. So,
There are, but you have to understand, that goes both ways. My mother has a 3-family house with no children. If you poll the members of the council, if we were sitting here at the dais, and I started my way left, which would be Deputy Mayor Graziano, he's a homeowner. How many bedrooms? 4 bedrooms. How many school-age children? None. Next to the council.
but he did have school-age children.
But I'm just saying that not every house has it. You have Councilwoman Berg, she's a house owner, she has no school-age children. You have Councilwoman DePena, she has a house. How many bedrooms, I'm not sure. She does have 2 school-age children, but they're not in school. Dr. John Latari has a house, no school-age children. I have a piece of property now where I live, no school-age children. I own various properties, no school-age children in any of them. Deputy Mayor, Councilman Cosarelli, it's a house, no school-age children in it. So it cuts both ways, you have to understand.
Well, I have a house and I have 3 bedrooms and I had school-age children. They did go through the school system. Now they're married. But that don't cut it. There's still people moving in 1-bedroom apartments with children. Because I've seen it all over Belleville. And I wanted to ask one more question. That the water rates are going up, and I don't want to hear percentage-wise. I want to hear money-wise. If I'm paying a $700 water bill, what's my water bill going to be?
I can defer that to you. Judith, it's not an easy question because there's a rate for the first, you're talking about commercial or residential?
Commercial.
There's a rate for the first 500 and there's a rate for everything after that. So it's not a straight answer. I can't give you a straight percentage.
Not approximately?
Judith can answer that.
It all depends upon your access. For a commercial, access is going from 3.92 for 500 cubic feet to 1150. For a resident, it's going from 3.92 to 550 on your access.
So it's going to
Unfortunately, it's not a
double.
straightforward answer.
It's going to double. And then my mom's around, going to go. Thank you.
Hold on one second. This man had his hand up first. I'll get to you though. You want to speak, sir? Yes. I'll get you next time.
Hi, my name is Ed Miller.
Ed, I'm sorry, one second, I apologize. Ms. Frantantoni, the address of the property? The one you just talked about, the commercial property? Address though? 196 Washington. Maybe we'll get you an exact answer. Sir, I'm sorry.
Hi, Ed Miller, Miller and Son, 24 Belleville Avenue. We spoke on Friday, I believe it was, on the phone regarding the water bill. I recently got mine. I'm billed monthly. I'm a large user of water in the commercial. And my bill has gone up 300%. And that seems to be a bit excessive. Is there any chance that this council is going to review the rate for the commercial? I mean, 300% on an increase, that's $1,000 a month to me.
Sure, so.
It's $12,000, you know, over the course of a year based on average water usage.
So you correct, you and I did speak?
Yes, we did discuss, we had a conversation at 1 o'clock on Friday.
Right, I have a note here to give you a call back, so that
Yes.
happened tomorrow, but I'm glad you're here. I also did know that Councilman Cosarelli, I believe, spoke with you.
Yes.
I think you did speak to various other professionals in town hall. So, as I explained to Ms. Frantantoni, I can't give you an exact percentage because there's a different rate for the first 500, and then there's a second rate for after the first 500, and it actually goes by your discharge after that. So commercial properties are getting hit, there's no doubt about that, as our residential tax base are too. Everybody's rates are going up. It would have been here anyway, you just would have been feeling that over the course of the last 5 years.
Okay, the residential's going up about 100%, but for me to go up 300%, I mean, it just seems excessive. You're putting, I know there's a lot of laundromats in town. I mean, they're working on quarters. I don't know how, this rate seems very excessive, because I don't think you're paying 300% more to the city of North.
We have a $1.6 million bond to pay down, but to answer your question also, I did speak, after I spoke to you, I did sit down with our tax collector, I spoke with the manager, I think Judith was in there, and then Councilman Cosarelli showed up. We are going to look, you saw that $900,000 number, that was the extra anticipated revenue that we expect this year. I know I spoke to Councilman Cosarelli, and I know I spoke to the tax collector. We are going to review that in January to see if that rate needs to be there, we can take that back down for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sir, I'm sorry, you got it?
Do I have to wear a vest as I speak?
I was pulled down, yeah. It would be right before and after, so.
Thank you for your time and effort this evening. My name is Gustavo Soriano, business owner at Belleville of 478 Washington Avenue, Exodus Hair Studios, and a new homeowner in Belleville. I just paid my mortgage today, so that's what's up, so I'm very happy. I really didn't want to start the meeting off like that. I had some points right here, but I just want to address something to the gentleman right here. How are we doing today, sir? Kudos. Just want to say, I've been in this town for 25 years, working in this town. I enjoy this town. I love this town. This town very much has my heart and my utmost respect. I appreciate the way you guys embraced me to this town in 1996 when I came in here, and I've been here ever since, and I really do have a love for this town. As far as with the police, I have nothing but the utmost respect for the boys in blue.
Gustavo, can I just please direct your comments this way?
Oh, sorry. I just want to say I have nothing but the utmost respect for the boys in blue and all their work and dedication and all their first responders. So thank you very much for that. And give the town a chance about they love you up here, you know what I'm saying? I just got nothing but love for you guys. Awesome. Now, as a business owner, my heart bleeds for all you business owners there with the 300% increase in water. That's extremely high. My first question is this. With the water, that 1.6, what we owe, is that compounded interest, or that's just what we owe? Are they going to put interest on that?
Steve, I don't think there's interest, and I think they're letting us pay it off over time, and there's not interest in the 1.6, and there's no interest. They're going to allow us to make multiple payments over the course of a year or two, and there's, to the best of my knowledge, no interest on that going forward.
No interest.
I'm sorry?
So I don't think it's definitely not compounded interest.
Okay, kudos. And on the block of 33 Watchung, I would just like to make a possible suggestion, if it's possible.
It's very congested there. As you're saying, there's new development going all over town in Belleville. I believe there's a 6-unit going up right in the corner of Watchung. And my question is there a way possible we can change the parking from horizontal parking to an angle parking on that block to create more parking? I come home from work and I gotta park by Stephen Crane Village and then walk up 2 blocks to my house. So as I turn onto that block, I see how everybody on Stephen Crane already has parking. They have the angle parking. I said, well, that makes sense. Why can't they just do that in front where my house is? So if that's a possibility, do I have to get petitions or anything like that from my neighbors or anything, or can we just put that into?
Traditionally, how it happens, if you come before us and make a request like that, I know our police chief is not here right now, but he is watching remotely. He makes notes, he kicks it down to his traffic bureau. They'll study it, they'll research it, and they report back. We don't really make a call on that.
I spoke to the chief of police this morning because I was cutting his hair, and I had the privilege of cutting the police chief's hair, and we were just discussing it. He goes, yeah, there's a meeting tonight. I'm like, there's a meeting tonight? He's like, yeah, 5 o'clock, which you're right. I think it's 5 o'clock is a little early. 6:30 should be kind of great, guys, if that's possible. 7 o'clock, just a little, put it out there. But when he told me 5 o'clock, so I shut the shop down a little bit early just to come down and make a request. He says, go down there. He told me he already spoke to me. I said, all right, great. So, but
Now, you'll acknowledge that we're at 7 o'clock when we're public commenting, so.
I would have still made it on time then, sir?
I'm sorry?
I would still made it on time then? If I got here at 7?
Yeah.
No, I would still would have made it on time.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, kudos. So if that's a possibility, so what can I do to possibly make that happen? If that's
I think you already did it. All right, sir, the police chief is making notes, and we'll have a look into it.
And one last thing, I want to say, I do appreciate you reaching out to the community as you've done before to reach out to the people of color in this town. I really do appreciate that. I believe you already had a meeting at the public library that you had there before. Also, I would like to encourage, and this is being broadcast, a lot of young people need to be out here, but I see not that you guys are older, I'm saying you're wiser. And I think we can all benefit from that wisdom. So kudos to that. Thank you very much, councilmen and councilwomen. Kudos. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Sure.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I just want to say I'm so happy that we're back together directly in person instead of doing Zoom or remote live stream meetings. As several speakers have already said, we should make every effort to start these meetings at least no earlier than 6 p.m. A lot of people work 9 to 5. There's no easy means for them to be with us with these early starts. So please try to put these meeting start times back to 6 p.m. where they historically have been for God knows how many previous years. During the technology report, Mr. Graziano spoke about network upgrades, software upgrades, etc. There was no mention of the status of iCompass. Where do we stand with that? Right, you've been using.
We've been using it.
Right, you've been using it, but when will the public get to use it? Soon?
Hopefully soon, yes.
All right, well, I've been hearing hopefully soon now for well over a year. Can you be a little bit more specific? Before this year is out or sometime in the next decade?
Mr. Sheldon, I think you asked a question about it. Council is using it, and I think the clerk answered that that's going to be really soon as well.
Right, well, I stumbled upon the portal for iCompass that you are using, and I've started to share it with a number of interested community residents. So that link is out there. People now know that it's there, but the public isn't allowed to see it. The content, it's restricted access to just the council members. I hope that changes soon. I want to return to the September 22nd council meeting, wherein you had the public hearing on the budget. That was the evening where you had to combine 2 previous meetings along with the September 22nd agenda due to the fact that the earlier meetings had not been properly noticed and you were in violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. So when the public hearing got underway, at the very start, both Ms. Kavanaugh and Mr. Martino went out of their way to tell the public that the budget had been published, or you had proof in your hands that the budget had been published to the Belleville Times, and you stated on the video record that the proof of payment was for September 3rd. First of all, that raises an interesting paradigm here, because if you submitted payment on September 3rd, the actual budget itself says that the budget would appear in the September 3rd edition of the Belleville Times. So I'm trying to first wrap my head around the fact that you alleged that proof of payment for September 3rd, but the budget was supposed to appear in September 3rd. But you can explain that little enigma later on. But I had asked, while the public hearing was underway in real time, I had asked for proof of payment, that document that Mr. Martino and Ms. Kavanaugh claimed to have. 3 weeks passed by. You guys know I emailed you over the weekend about this. Mr. Martino gave me a very nice response. Late this afternoon, I got my OPA request satisfied by Ms. Kavanaugh. So thank you, Joe, thank you. I'm looking at the invoice for when the 2020 budget was submitted to North Jersey Media for publication. Now keep in mind that the budget hearing took place on Tuesday, September 22nd. The order date, according to this invoice, is September 24th, 2 days after the budget hearing took place. So, I mean, I'm not a very smart person. Just the degrees in theoretical physics mean nothing. My graduate fellowship at Harvard means nothing. I'm trying to figure out how you could have a hearing for the budget on September 22nd when you submitted the budget for publication to North Jersey Media on the 24th. Can you please explain this discrepancy?
Sure. As you cut off Mr. Martino, who's going to answer your last question, I'm not going to have the clerk answer that yet. You still have another 30 seconds.
All right. Well, even if I give you the benefit of the doubt that maybe there was just some sort of clerical work, or you submitted it earlier, and this invoice has a later date, and that this all makes sense. I have copies of all the Belleville Times. September 3rd, September 10th, September 17th, September 24th, and October 1st. There's no budget printed in any of these newspapers. I believe you were once again, just as you were with the August and early September meetings, you were once again statutorily in violation of state statute. As you all know all too well, especially Mr. Martino, the budget has to be advertised, has to be published at least 10 days before you have the public hearing. That wasn't done. You can give me some sort of concocted explanation now of how these dates don't necessarily mean what they indicate in black and white. But as you all know at this point, my counsel, Miles Feinstein, is about to pounce on you. In fact, he's meeting with both FBI and the U.S. Attorney next week to discuss a number of issues that I previously raised. I'll be calling him tomorrow and perhaps asking him to file a motion with the Superior Court in New Jersey to get an injunction on your budget hearing. You did not comply with the law once again.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Sheldon, I'm going to answer you.
Actually, but not be back and forth. So Mr. Sheldon's time is done as the mic is being cleared.
Of course I won't be.
First of all, if you look at the order date, is not the order date the order for the publication.
Probably the date the PO was put into the system.
Exactly. The order date is the
Mr. Sheldon's very smart. I thought he would have done that.
Yeah, the purchase order date is 9/24/20. That's the purchase order. That's the first document you're looking for. Okay. So where on that document? Okay. So if you look at the description, you will see that it says 9/3 budget 2020. So that's the first document you're looking at. Now if you go to the second document, okay, you will see what was presented to the township by North Jersey Media Group. The last, just above the signature, which comes from the Belleville Times to the Township of Belleville, if you look at that document, you will see below the signature line, above the signature line, it says dated September 3rd, 2020. You see that?
I'm looking at that page,
Okay,
yes.
now look at the third page. Okay, so that's the second document that says 9/3/2020. Now look at the third page, and this is the document that Kelly and I were looking at the night of the budget hearing. And look at the bottom of that document. Do you see the bottom of that document?
You've typed in the date, that doesn't necessarily mean...
We typed in the date? Seriously?
This is what you submitted for publication.
No.
Somebody had to type it.
This comes from the Belleville Times. It doesn't come from the township. This is what the Belleville Times gave us. Belleville Times, and it has an item number. Do you see it? It says 00043411497, fee $87.42, September 3rd, 2020. I had that, and I read that, and I never, and I know you haven't, you probably spend all your weekend, because that's when you sent the email, looking at that. You can look at the video.
I this afternoon.
You can look at the video, and I'm talking about watching the video, because your email came out on a Sunday at like 10 o'clock at night. But I can tell you this, you look at that video, and you see if I say we paid the invoice on that day, because we didn't have it. We didn't have it to pay. A purchase order, the township has a procedure which requires that when we get the invoice, which was $87.42, we send a purchase order. Okay? So no, I never said it was paid that day. I never said it was published on the 24th. I was reading from the document that you got, number 3, which says Belleville Times 000341497, fee $87.42, September 3rd, 2020.
I think we've answered this question.
No,
Thank you,
then
Mr.
how do you reconcile
Joe,
the fact that
it's-
you're
time
claiming
is
that
up.
this was done on September 3rd, but it's never been published in the newspaper today? It has to be published. That's one of the requirements under this statute. The budget has to be published to the designated newspaper at least 10 days in advance. If you did properly notify the Belleville Times and pay for this in a timely fashion, why has this never appeared in print? To this date, it has never appeared.
You don't pay before you publish. You pay after it's billed. It was invoiced, a purchase order was sent, and the township paid the...
Mr. Sheldon, I have to move forward.
This still
Thank
doesn't
you.
make any sense. It
No
doesn't.
problem.
You have never made the budget available. to the
Okay,
Belleville
you're going to
Times.
handle that tomorrow when you have your meeting, so, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Cafucci? I'll get you next.
This time I'll pull it down, you might be able to hear me better. First of all, it's nice to have what is, I guess, the new normal for our council meetings. I appreciate that. Second, do you know when we will be receiving our tax bills? Ballpark.
Fourth quarter?
I understand that they were mailed out Friday.
Were mailed out? Oh, good. And if I may through the chair, what is Kelly's corsage for?
Massage is probably not our breast cancer awareness.
I'm sorry?
Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Oh, okay. Well, nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Allergies. Frank Fleischman, Frank Fleischman, 833 Main Street, lead editor of Belleville Watch. I only have...
Just get closer.
Is that better? Okay. Is this thing on? I had 3 things initially, and looks like everybody's basically mentioned the third item, basically about the 5 o'clock. The 5 o'clock start, you know. I agree with everybody, Mr. Sheldon, and I sure hope that Mr. Sheldon doesn't get me accused of circular wagons or providing cover or anything like that. The first question I have is, and I don't think it's been asked before by other people, and I don't think that the taxpayers of Belleville have really gotten a very good answer to this. I'm going to ask it directly, it can be answered yes or no. Are there persons who worked on or supported the Better Belleville ticket in 2018 who now have municipal jobs?
Asked and answered, I believe 3.
I'm sorry?
Asked and answered, I believe 3. I've answered this before, actually.
Thank you.
I don't ever recall you asking any other mayor how many people that worked on their campaigns, or any other council person that was here for the last 16 years, that question. You haven't also answered how many people are employed by the township, because I'll answer that even though you didn't ask. When I got in office in 2018, there were X amount of employees. In 2019, there were less than that. In 2020, there's even less than 2019. You haven't really mentioned that at all. But yes, 3 people that I can count off the top of my head. And keep in mind, I'm mayor, so I know most people in town. Yeah.
I came to the Kimball dance a little late. I came in on the ground floor with you. And honestly, Mr. Mayor, are you deflecting?
I just answered your question. Point blank.
Yes or no?
I said yes 3 times now. But you still have 3 more minutes to go.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Secondly, as I'm sure a lot of people know, on my site Belleville Watch, I put a challenge to our Board of Education candidates, and it's going to end, the deadline is midnight tonight, for the candidates to basically publicly support an investigation into potential criminal activity leading up to the 2014 Board of Education budget. I'm glad to say that 2 people, 2 candidates, have actually met that challenge. And to be fair, because I've been accused of not being fair, I wanted to offer to this body an opportunity. On the agenda for the next council meeting, I would like to see a resolution supporting, encouraging the Attorney General to investigate potential criminal activity in the activities leading up to the 2014 deficit. I would like one of you, I'd like all of you to sponsor something like that. That is the Belleville Watch challenge for the Township Council for the next council meeting. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Tammy Deborah. I've lived here almost 6 years now. I love it. Drastic increase in the water bill. My water bill last quarter was $44. I just looked online at where you can see your taxes and your utilities. It's $181. Have you all looked at your water bills yet for this quarter? My neighbors went from $150 to $400. I posted something on nextdoor.com. People in neighboring towns like Nutley and Bloomfield have said the same thing. And when I called the tax collector's office and asked what happened, I was told, well, there hasn't been an increase in many years. But I'm sorry, that would be really nice to get some sort of warning about, hey, we're gonna increase your water bill almost five times.
So ma'am, first of all, thank you for being here and your comment. This topic was discussed before this board and voted on 2 different meetings.
Oh.
It included public comment, which is fine. So that was the first part. It is always noticed. And we do have 2 meetings that are done by ordinance and then public commenting on both of them. I get it, not everybody knows about the meetings. So therefore, I asked the township manager's office to make sure we include a letter to all the residents when they get their bill. And I know you got here late because you had wrong information, and I apologize for that. But I did, at my mayor's report, list some of the reasons why that happened. And then we've already, you probably heard, had a few questions already on that topic. But they are correct. We haven't had an increase in a long time, and I'm going to repeat myself, I know you weren't here. Newark, we buy our water from Newark. So they charge us X, and for a long time, they've been ticking up that amount, and we never increased our rate for about 6 years. So we owe Newark $1.6 million. So a portion of that increase is actually going to pay down a debt that now we've incurred. I wasn't mayor here. Most of this governing body or some of this government wasn't here. It's something that happened years ago that now, unfortunately, we have to right. And the residents are feeling it, the businesses are feeling it.
The timing is
Yeah.
COVID, and my profession is dead in the
So are you
water.
talking about a residential home or a commercial home? A commercial
Residential.
property? Okay, I didn't know, it's a different rate, actually.
Yeah, residential.
But yes, I know you weren't here for that. If you want to, later when you go home, you want to watch the feed, you would hear my explanation. But you probably didn't get your bill yet because you mentioned you saw it online. When you do get your bill, you will have a letter from me explaining that. And that's, you know.
Oh,
I know
okay,
the
that's,
timing isn't good.
the
And,
timing is,
and listen, when I woke up one day and Newark said you owe us $1.6 million, it was during COVID. And we've actually been able to negotiate with them on a payment plan. They want $1.6 million from us. And we run a deficit every year on water because they're now charging us more than we charge our customers, which is you. Unfortunately, it's just economics.
so as a follow-up to that, may I ask, I grew up in a third world country where we could not drink the tap water. So it's very upsetting to move here. I mean, I've been in the US a long time, but to move to a major metropolitan area and sometimes have brown water coming out of the tap with no warning, getting letters saying our water is not drinkable, things
Mandy, I just want, because you are being recorded, people are hearing it, you've never gotten a letter saying non-drinkable. We actually do send out notices when we see a certain threshold, but we've never sent out a notice of water.
Do you drink the water out of the tap?
I do.
Is it filtered?
Yeah. No, in my office, well, I actually replaced my lead line about 8 years ago. Now I live in a condo, and that condo probably actually does not have a lead service line. No,
Does
I have
that
no
have
problem with a lead service line. But I do drink the tap water.
Just I hope that in the spirit of increases, that you will push Newark to give better quality water
So-
since the rates have gone
I
up.
agree with you, and I'm a customer, you're a customer, every member of the council is a customer of Newark. Newark has, I've talked extensively about this on our township website, on my social media. Newark has changed their threshold. Newark's recent test showed no actionable levels of lead, which is great because they changed their treatment about 6-8 months ago. It's now working its way through. So the water that Newark residents are getting are totally clean. Our threshold is 15 parts per billion, and we missed it by we were 15.3 or 4. We just missed it, so we're very confident. Next quarter's testing is not going to show an actionable level. Newark's treatment is working, and part of that part of the extra money that you're now paying is because the federal government has mandated that we start a lead line service replacement program, which we are. So even if Newark's treatment fails in the future, the only pure way to fix this problem is lead service line replacement. And here in Belleville, in most communities, that residential service line is actually the homeowner's responsibility. So as I mentioned, I replaced mine many years ago, but that lead service line is the homeowner's responsibility. If I don't know if you live in a single family house or...
Single.
Okay. I don't know, your house was built, there's a lot of...
54, 59, sorry.
More than likely, you do not have a lead service line. Anything after 1950, 52, more than likely you don't have a lead service line. So your water has no lead in it. If your house is built the year you say it is, they ban lead. It's a little vague. Between 50 and 52 is usually the threshold that I use. So you probably don't have a lead service line anymore.
Okay, that doesn't, I live down the street from the old chief of police. What's his name? I forget. On Fairway.
Okay.
Thank you, Redton.
Yeah, so that
whatever year all those houses.
Yeah, but if your house was built after 1950, we can talk about it offline. If you want to email me, I can give you the whole rundown of the program and why there's no lead issue, particularly in your house.
Okay, great.
Okay?
So I'll just
we'll talk.
cringe as I pay that bill.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right. Sure.
I heard the the amounts, I haven't got my water bill yet, but the question comes up, I don't believe Newark doubled our water rates. Is that what's happened?
I don't have the exact dollar amounts on where it went.
Well, 100% is a lot of money, 200% is even worse.
Yes, Jerry, but I know you'll follow this, because I know you know this kind of stuff. It depends on how much use you have. So the first 500 linear feet is X. Anything after that is billed a lot more. So I don't use much water. I take 2 showers a day, and that's really it. So I'm probably within that first 500 feet. My rate hasn't gone up 100%, but if you have a laundromat as commercial business, or 4 people living in the house that are constantly taking showers, dishwashers, and all that.
Well, let me ask her a question. The original statements she gave, are you saying up to now, the rate for residential and commercial was identical?
Yes.
It was identical.
Yes, it was.
And now the commercial rate has gone up around, I would say, 200%, because I know people say 300, but if you're going from 4 to 12, that's really only 200% increase.
And it's only a portion of your bill, too, by the way.
All right. And residential has gone up, I believe, close to 100%.
It's going from 3.92 to 7.
To 7, so 75%, we'll say. All right, we're up 75%. Now, how much did the basic go up? I assume this is all for the overuse usage, not the basic.
The minimum has also doubled.
The minimum went for, both were paying $24.50. So the residential went from $24.50 to $55, and commercial went from $24.50 to $90. But commercial was paying the same amount for residential.
All for years, for decades.
For as long as you have Newark water.
Now, as you probably know, Jerry, PSE&G and electric, commercial customers always pay more.
No, I'm not arguing that point.
I pay more for my commercial.
I'm just saying the percentage of increase is astronomical. I don't think the city of Newark is charging us that type of an increase more.
We also have the $1.6 million debt to pay.
Now, did you settle that, or are you still looking into trying to settle that?
We do not have signed contracts, Mr. Martino.
So this is still under negotiation, you're telling me?
It's really not, what's in negotiation is the time period for payment of the 1.6 million. We've proposed 5 years, but it doesn't look like they're ready. And they wanted it right away, and they said 18 months. I mean, I'll tell you straight out, because everybody's so concerned about it. I expect it to probably be 18 months to 2 years, which is a lot of money for the town to pay back.
Right.
And that's, as the mayor said, that was because these increases over 5 years. So they were increasing, but we weren't. So it added up to 1.6.
Well, when you don't advise somebody of an increase, there's usually no increase.
Well, there's an increase in the original contract. So, no, you mean the town people?
Yeah, how are you accountable if they're not giving you telling you they're raising your rates?
It's part of the original contract.
They were raising our rates. I wasn't here. The administration then just decided not to raise your rates. We were losing money every year.
The contract provides for increasing rates.
After it expires?
Not like Mr. Rose said, where they all of a sudden said, here's a bill. That did not happen. So in this instance...
But I mean, in the original contract, it said once it expires, if there's no agreement, it keeps on increasing?
Yes.
That was in the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, next question I have. How many people took out this buyout?
5, 6. 5.
5 took out the buyout, and I understand the buyout was $20,000.
Depends.
It depends?
This was negotiated by the manager.
I thought it was a flat 20,000. That's what I heard.
Negotiated by the manager. So I think some of them
there was one department head that received $10,000 more than the 20 because he was a department head, and we didn't want to treat a department head with a straight line employee.
Wait. I didn't hear that. What did you say?
I said okay, so we had 5 employees retired. One of the 5 was a department head with over 30 years experience. We didn't want to treat the department head with a straight, we gave the department head an additional $10,000.
So we got 30,000.
That's correct.
Everybody else got 20, the other four?
That's correct, that's correct.
So you're talking about 110,000. You bonded for $500,000. Where's the other money going?
Vacation pay, there's sick pay, again, so there's,
It's all part of labor contracts.
Well, there's one thing you mentioned before about the union with the contract. One thing that union cannot negotiate, and that is staffing. So if you want to cut positions, you're allowed to cut positions.
Which is
You
why
may have to give them a 45-day notice, but you can cut positions. They don't have control over that. I just wanted to make you aware of that if you weren't aware. That's civil service.
Okay, you said unions.
No, I said the unions have no authority over it.
I agree with you.
The civil service does, and you can give a 45-day notice, but the unions cannot tell you how much staffing you have to provide or what positions you have to provide.
I agree.
Okay.
And you need to wrap up.
I just want to get that straight. This resolution 13, how much was this settlement since you're voting on it tonight?
It's dollars is minimal. What happened was this was a residential property owner who had 5 years worth of tax appeals pending. The residential.
So those were the tax, they were on tax sale, is what you told me?
No. These are tax appeals. They were appealing their assessment.
Okay.
It was a residential property owner.
But they were paying their taxes?
Oh yeah, they were paying their taxes.
Okay.
And it was like the house was assessed at, I don't know, I think $197,000 or something. So the tax appeals, the person agreed to dismiss 3 years of tax appeals and the assessment for 2 of those years. It was a home run.
Okay. Number 14, what is this about? This agreement with Outfront Media, what is that?
I actually have, I just want to do that. I updated the council when we were in executive session on that, just a contract. So because the census has now extended for 30 more days to the end of October, the county has extra money left over. Long story short, the county's doing a census event in Belleville in front of a billboard, and that billboard is owned by this company. The town just has to indemnify them, no cost, no money.
Outfront Media, that's the billboard?
So the town has to indemnify them because they're going to have a tent, they're going to have a porta john, they're going to do an event in front of the billboard.
Now, I assume there's only 5 councilmen tonight? Am I correct? Including on the speaker. When you went into private session, were the other 2 councilmen able?
Yes.
Good, I just want to ask that
You need to
question.
wrap up.
And the last thing I want to wrap up, the gentleman mentioned about Watchung Avenue. I believe it's on Watchung and Cross, it's a corner property. And if that's the property in question, I want to let you know it did come before the zoning board, and we approved parking on the first level, 1 parking space per bedroom. There was a couple 2 bedrooms and a couple 1s. And there should be a total of the amount of bedrooms, the amount of parking spaces. So, just in case you thought that was going to come to the street, no, it shouldn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sir?
Good evening, how are we doing? Just have something that I'd like to ask about. One question pertains to the council, and the other one is pertaining to our chief, who I believe was told is online. So maybe he could address this for me tonight. It's 2 different matters, but one of them has to do with no commercial vehicle parking overnight in the town. This town does have an ordinance for it, so my question to the council on it is, how are ordinances, once approved and passed, supposed to be enforced by those responsible for enforcing them? And are residents required to call in a violation of an ordinance if those responsible are aware of them? That's mostly for the council. The next 3 are for the police department, mainly the chief. And let me say that I want to commend him for their leadership in the department. also want to thank our Belleville Police Department for their services. I think they all do a very good job in our town. And so my question to the chief tonight is, why isn't the no commercial vehicle parking overnight ordinance enforced as police drive past these vehicles in residential streets throughout the night and don't issue summonses? Why are residents expected to call Belleville Police to have the ordinance enforced? Why isn't the ordinance just enforced? And fourth, now that it has been brought to the attention of our police department, when can residents expect enforcement action on this ordinance? The reason I ask is because some of the residents where I live are familiar with the fact that I work closely with the administration of the town, being a zoning board member. They tend to ask me about issues pertaining to the town, and so I'm really here on behalf of them. Fortunately for me, I have a driveway. I don't have to worry about parking in the evening. But lots of them come home. They, one, sometimes can't get into their driveway because some of these vehicles are blocking them from entering because they're so big they're unable to see where they're going. Also pulling out of their driveways, they have concerns that they might get into an accident because they can't see all these vehicles, they're so high. It obstructs their views. And so I'm really here on behalf of these residents who have come to me and raised these concerns. Also, driving throughout the town, I see these vehicles everywhere. They're even blocking, I guess what is their own driveway in their residence. So their driveway is full of cars, and then they park the commercial one out on the street blocking the driveway. So my questions revolve around those things. And then the other matter is, since we're talking about it, I wasn't aware of it, the water meters. I'm familiar with the fact that some of the meters within the town, water meters, don't work. And when they don't work, what goes out is the minimal bill. And I wasn't aware of the fact that the minimal bill both applies to recently both residential and commercial properties. So what I'd like to know about that, and this is for the council, is given that the rates have almost doubled, in some instances got even higher than that, what is the town doing to make sure that these water meters, which I know I'm aware of, that aren't working and are just getting the minimal bill? What is the town doing to make sure that someone is out looking at these meters, making sure that they're working, and then making sure that any monies owed to the town are being collected from these properties whose meters are not working, have not been working for months, and have just been getting a minimal bill for months on their water? Thank you.
Thank you. So as you can imagine, you did say correctly, the chief is watching, so I'm sure he's taking some notes.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but one other thing I just wanted to mention. I have spoken to our council person, the representative for our district. I have been in conversation with him. He has mentioned it to the chief, and they both have been very receptive. So I just wanted to mention that, but I haven't gotten an answer as to how and when the enforcement.
Sure. So as you can imagine, proactiveness, and our police officers right now, especially at this time during COVID, are driving around patrolling. They have a lot of things in their mind left. They're just trying to go home alive sometimes, right? So, but there's a positive and negative reaction to every decision we make. If we have to increase our water rates, we have many residents coming here, rightfully so, to complain and voice their objections. We did that because of COVID, people aren't working and such. If we went out today and wrote a ticket to every single commercial van, the next council meeting we would have every single contractor, every single person here saying, I'm just trying to make a living, I pay my taxes, I park my car there. So every decision we make has positive and negative consequences, as you can imagine. Our police officers, most of the time, are patrolling, they're looking for crime, they're going from accident to accident, job to job. Most of them really aren't looking in driveways and doing that kind of thing. That does fall to homeowners. If they have a complaint, they can certainly call it in. Like loud music. Police officers have their windows up and they drive down the street, they might not hear loud music, but if your neighbor has loud music, you call up, they complain, they show up, they write a ticket, they issue a summons or a violation or a warning, and that's just the way it is. If there is an area of town that is predominantly having a specific issue. I know Deputy Mayor, he walks around a lot, and these are some of the same things he says. If there's a specific portion of town that we see a big uptick, the chief will issue a patrol division lookout order, and then our police officers will have a raised level of awareness when they're engaging in that area. Just like today, if you heard the beginning of the meeting about, as crazy as it sounds, blue and red squirrels, I can guarantee you now that patrol division lookout order went out. Cops patrolling in that area will be looking for somebody with a paint gun, or looking for those things. Unfortunately, they have a lot on their hands. They're obligated to do it all. We ask them to do a lot, but a lot of times these things do come down to the residents that actually self-monitor and call it. I tell people all the time, nobody gets more emails. Not Mr. Iacono, not the police chief. Nobody gets more emails than I do. A lot of times it's fireworks, it's this, it's noise, it's music. They email me and I say, man, when I reply, you're not putting the police department out. You're not bothering them if you call it in. Everybody says, well, I don't want to bother them. But emailing me at 11:30 at night isn't going to solve your problem. Because I'm not there, I can't see the fireworks, I can't do a lot of, I might not get the emails until the next day. I don't want to bother the police department, but that's their job. I do have to say, they are very responsive. Resident complaints like that, if we see an uptick in a certain area, I can guarantee you a patrol division lookout order, which is what it's called, will go out to those individuals patrolling that area, and you'll see it. But then again, I can almost guarantee you will also be here at a council meeting and see everybody coming in and complaining about it. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. I do know Anthony had a comment about the water meters, but I know the water meters, we recently had them do a survey of every single, and this is a funny story, it's a sad story, it's ironic. We recently had to do an audit of everybody getting the $24 minimum charge. Guess what? We actually found a business that got a $24 charge for the last 15 or 20 years. We're now going after that business for all the back money they owe us. So I do know that they have been auditing and looking at that stuff. Unless Mr. Iacono has something additional to add to that.
No, just the fact that, yes, due to that audit, similar to what you said, been brought to our attention, we've made some adjustments. We actually have a meeting this Thursday at 1 o'clock to make some additional adjustments. So if there is for better words, backlog on water meters, I would think by the end of the year we'll be completely up to date.
To answer your question about ordinances, how I handle it, right? Like the mayor said, I walk. You see something, you say something. I mean, Anthony does a phenomenal job, documentation, gets what he's got to get done, and makes sure things get done. So as I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to everybody out there, homeowners, people that work in town, that drive through the town, see something, say something. Don't just be particular for you, or when something bothers you, say it across the board. I do it on manholes, I do it on poles, I do it on debris, across the board. I actually email it. And
I constantly take pictures of graffiti.
Exactly.
No matter where I am, I'm always taking pictures. Yeah, I would love for our DPW to notice the light being out or notice graffiti. But chances are they're going from point A to point B with a task in mind, they're not seeing it. They have a different set of eyes that I have or the police chief has or the deputy mayor might have, but the work in progress until we get there.
I was going to say, I mean, these are all processes that should be implemented, right? I mean, it should be normal that if our DPW is responsible for these items, that as they're driving by and they notice them, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it on the spot, but point it out, bring it up, write something out, bring it to the attention of your supervisor that it exists. And these are processes that as leaders, I think we need to be implementing for the folks that are responsible for that.
I do have a picture short. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, just real quick, what I wanted to say was on your comment about the next meeting having commercial vehicle drivers coming and attending and complaining about the summonses. Let them come, because it's not fair to the residents who come home in the evening and can't find parking or can't pull out of their driveway because there's a commercial vehicle blocking it, blocking their view or taking up a parking space where they can be parking. These owners, if they want to own a business, finding parking for your commercial vehicle is an expense of being a business owner, so I don't think the residents should have to deal with that. But thank you very much, we appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Seeing nobody else, I'll entertain a motion to close public comment.
Second?
Motion made and second, all in favor? Aye. Next item on our agenda would be the consent agenda. I went through the first version of it. Just going to give every council member 30 seconds to scroll through it. It's changed since we last saw it. The professionals that we're going out to bid for, professionals we go out to bid every single year for, annually, every single year we issue proposals at this stage. We're doing it again. I don't feel like reading about how we're hiring grant writers and auditors and general engineers and bond counsel. It's something that we do every year. We have to issue an RFP. That's what you see there, number 12. That's it. I'm good. I have nothing to pull. Anybody? No? No? All right, then I'm going to entertain a motion to move the consent agenda.
Motion. Second?
Motion made and seconded to move the consent agenda. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena? Yes. Graziano?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Next up, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.